1360 WVOX.
Now, live from Whitney Media, 1460 WVOX, the Greenburgh Report with Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner. You can join in the conversation at 914-636-0110. Now on 1460 WVOX, here's Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Good morning. My name's Paul Feiner. I'm the Greenburgh Town Supervisor, and during the past few weeks, I've been focusing the radio shows on different aspects of COVID-19, the coronavirus. We've talked about meditation. We've talked about mental health. We've talked about domestic violence. These are all aspects of COVID-19. They're one of the problems that the illness has is that it's causing people to have other problems. One other issue that we haven't touched on is nutrition. When people are isolated, when they're feeling down, they may not be eating correctly. So my guest today is Erica Leon, and she lives in Ardsley. She's a nutrition expert, and we're going to be talking about eating correctly and living better and nourishing yourself in a healthy manner. So, Erica, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me, Paul. I'm very happy to talk about this very important topic, nutrition.
You maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you got into this business.
Absolutely. So people who may not know me, I've been a dietitian, a registered dietitian for 35 years, and my career has really changed as I've learned things about nutrition, and I think that we've really gotten wiser to what a quote-unquote healthy, balanced diet really can look like. And I've also come to work with people with disordered eating and eating disorders, as I've been a dietitian for this amount of time, and I've seen what happens when people are trying to do kinds of extreme diets and some of the problems that can lead to. So one of the things that I specialize in my business, I have two other dietitians because we work with eating disorders. So we're seeing a lot of that right now.
So when I said that COVID-19 causes people to eat incorrectly, was that exaggeration or is that pretty accurate?
No, it's not an exaggeration at all. What's happening, I mean, honestly, this period of time in our world, we know we're having a collective trauma response, I believe, and there's so many areas of our lives that are affected. And I think that when so much is unknown and there's so much stress on our lives, it's easy to find the one thing that we can control, and often that can feel like our bodies, our weight, our food. So I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing people really struggling to find a balance between eating for health, quote unquote, and also feeling like so as control. People are in the kitchen all day and they're eating. I'm seeing a lot of emotional eating going on right now. Sort of a lot of different responses, but a lot of people are really struggling with knowing how to manage themselves around food. Feeling really worried and guilty and honestly not knowing what to eat. So you asked a really good question.
And also, I guess if somebody's at home all day, you could be binging and you don't even realize it.
Absolutely. I think what's happening, I'm seeing this a lot, is people are stuck at home for the first time ever. They may be teaching their kids. I can't even imagine that, honestly. They may be home with their partner for the first time, working at home and under such tight quarters. And so several things are happening. Either someone is trying to restrict their food and say, I'm not going to eat something. I ate so much last night. I'm not going to eat today. And so they try to control their food during the day, but the kitchen calls, and then people are finding themselves thinking about what they can eat, and then that actually does often trigger a sort of a binge, being in the kitchen, and it's like, oh, screw it, I didn't eat well anyway, I might as well eat everything. I'm seeing a lot of that going on, yes.
And also, I guess people are not exercising, as much. They're stuck in their house.
Yeah. I'll just say that people are stuck in their houses. People are afraid to go outside. Obviously, people can't go to gyms. And so I'm seeing a couple of different things. I'm seeing people not moving and feeling really bad about themselves. And I'm also seeing people doing a lot of extra movement. So I just want to kind of address both of those things. I wanted to say, first of all, and I really mean this from the bottom of my heart, whatever people are doing right now, I wanted to say, please, it's okay. Let's have a little compassion. This is extraordinary, what we're living in right now. And, and I have to just say one thing. I'm not going to talk about exercise for just a moment because I want to put something out there. I'm seeing a lot of, and I'm going to say it, fat-phobic memes, things that on social media saying, oh, my God, you're going to gain weight. The worst thing you can possibly do during this period of time is to gain weight. Talking about the COVID-19. And I just want to say that whatever happens now.
We have to take a break right now.
Okay.
This is a 5-minute break, and then we'll be right back. And my guest is Erica Leon, who is an expert on nutrition, and she is based in Ardsley. And we'll be back in a few minutes. I'm Paul Feiner, Greenburgh Town Supervisor.
Now, back to the Greenburgh Report on 1460 WVOX. Once again, here's Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Good morning. My name is Paul Feiner. I'm the Greenburgh Town Supervisor, and we're talking with one of the top Westchester nutrition experts, Erica Leon, about nutrition. And this is an important issue, especially during COVID-19, when people are more likely to binge eating. They're very stressed. They are, they're aggravated, and they may be making foolish choices that could impact their health. So, Erica, thanks so much for being part of the show. I had a question that I was thinking of during the break. When people are home, they're bored, they're stressed, they go in the kitchen. What is good food and what is bad food?
So that's a good question. And I'm going to just say that I do not believe that there are any good or bad foods. I think when we talk about foods that way, we actually set up a black and white dichotomy that I think sends the wrong message to our children. So instead, I'll tell you what I like to recommend is to really think about eating balanced, regular meals and snacks during the day. I think that it can help prevent some of that sort of sneaking into the kitchen, because when you feed yourself regularly, your blood sugar tends to be more stable and you don't get that sort of crazy hangry feeling, which I think is what happens when we don't eat regularly. And I think that rather than thinking about eating things that are quote unquote bad, I like to think about adding in things that we know are very health promoting for our body. So I'm just going to say that right now with some of the supply chain issues, we don't always get all the things that we'd really want to have in our home. Like we may not necessarily have all the fresh fruit and vegetables we want. It just may not be as available. So I just really want to make that point. I don't want anyone to feel bad if they're eating things that they may not normally have. And I think it's just so important to really make that point, to normalize it. There's nothing wrong with having frozen vegetables, for example, instead of fresh if it's not available. So that's kind of the first thing, is to eat regularly through the day. And when you say something is a bad food, I think what happens is you want to have it all the more. So I think that's just an important distinction, that all foods can fit in the diet, but try to eat regularly and think about taking care of your here and now body, nourishing it throughout the day with health promoting foods. A lot of people that I work with are doing a lot of comfort eating, baking things, making breads. I'm hearing so many of my clients all of a sudden starting to bake bread. And, I think this is what we sort of do under the crisis time. And I think that, it makes sense. We want to sort of go back and use our hands and be in the kitchen. And I just want to, again, normalize it. I think if people feel like it's a bad thing to do, they're going to think they're doing something wrong. And, we're under such an enormous amount of stress. We've never been in a situation like this. I just really want to make that point. I hope that makes sense.
It does make sense. So let's say somebody was binging and they were eating a lot. They were on Zoom and kept snacking, and they feel really full. Does it make sense to not have breakfast or lunch? You mentioned that people should be eating 3 meals a day, but if you went crazy the night before, what do you do?
I'll just say this: if you went crazy the night before, I want to say have some compassion for yourself and say, you know what? Okay, that was last night. I'm going to take some measures today that are going to make me feel better in my body. Maybe I won't eat as large of a breakfast, but I want to start my day usually within a couple of hours eating something. I think when you go in that direction and not eat, it sets you up to then binge again. And this is sort of what I call the binge restrict cycle of yo-yo dieting, where you feel really bad about yourself. If you don't eat, then you're going to go binge again. So that would always be my suggestion, to try to have something, even if it's small, just to get your blood sugar going, and be kind to yourself. Our bodies, I'll just say this, our bodies are very wise. They really have a way of self-regulating, all things being equal. And so that if you do feed them regularly, even if you have a binge, they're going to give you information about your levels of hunger and fullness. I think we're so busy worrying and being on diets all the time that we've lost touch with what our bodies actually feel. But I want to make a point about being on Zoom all day because I'm the same way. I am there. It's very hard to sit still all day and focus on the computer. And so I really tried between meetings. I just want to get up and just walk around a little bit. And I know that you've had some talk about mindfulness and meditation. And I think that breathing can be a really helpful way of trying to calm yourself down in those moments where you just feel like you have to go into the kitchen. So I always say, when you feel those urges coming on, just stop. Like, I literally tell people, think about a stop sign. You see a stop sign, you have to stop. You can look to the left, decide if you're going to make a left turn, look to the right, or go straight through, but you have to stop. And so you have a decision in that moment. Stop and think, am I really hungry? So I want to go into that kitchen. Or what might serve me better in this moment? Would it feel better to go outside for a moment and get some fresh air? Might it feel better to get up from the table and dance for a moment? So these are the kinds of strategies I think can be helpful instead of one specifically about food. Does that make sense? I hope I'm explaining it right.
Definitely. Before we take a break, could you tell people also how they could get in touch with you if they have any questions or want to take advantage of your services?
Absolutely. My website is www.ericaleon.com, ERICALEON.com. And I have a contact page. I have actually lots of great information about some online programs that I'm doing right now. The whole world has gone online, and so are we. There's 3 dietitians in my practice, and we're available to help anyone and everyone with any kind of nutritional or body image concerns. So thank you for that.
Right. And right now, all visits are by Zoom?
Yes. Everything is by Zoom. We have, it's telehealth, just like when you would go to a doctor. We have all of our, and it's a medical record. It's encrypted. It's safe, HIPAA compliant. So, yes, all over Zoom. And we also have some online programs for people who want to learn how to let go of diets. All of that is on my website.
If somebody has a habit of, binging at every night or whatever, what advice do you give them so they would stop that? Oh, wait, maybe we could ask about it right after the break, where you have to take a little more break right now, and we'll be back in a few minutes. I'm Paul Feiner, and we're talking nutrition with Erica Leon.
Fly with us every day on America's legendary community station, WVOX, for you and yours at 1460 on your AM dial or streaming live right now at WVOX.com. Better yet, download the WVOX app and take us with you wherever you go.
1460 WVOX.
Now back to the Greenburgh Report on 1460 WVOX. Once again, here's Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Hi, I'm Paul Feiner, Greenburgh Town Supervisor, and we're back with Erica Leon. Erica, could you hear me?
I think we lost her momentarily.
Oh, okay. We're waiting for Erica Leon, and we're talking about nutrition. will you let me know when she's back on?
Here I am. I'm back.
Okay, good. Here, I'm sorry. I hung up by mistake, so it was my fault. But the question I have is, if somebody is binge eating and they have that as a habit, what recommendations would you have for them to stop that condition?
Absolutely. So I just want to make a quick distinction, because we often talk about binge eating and emotional eating in the same breath, and they're actually different. Binge eating has a definition, actually, and it means eating an excessively large a number of calories in a very short period of time, and it often comes from a place of restriction. So people don't realize that when they diet, when they keep their calories low because they're so worried about gaining weight and they're dieting, often that leads to a pendulum of them finding food and starting to binge eat. So when someone does this often, very, very often they will need some additional guidance, perhaps talking to a mental health professional. And again, I'm seeing a lot of that right now because just the world is crazy. And so we tend to do things with our food. Emotional eating is a bit different. It's eating for reasons, any other reason other than being physically hungry. For example, being bored, being tired, sometimes being thirsty, like having feelings and using food as a way of coping. And again, I wanted to say this makes a lot of sense right now in the world, but we do have strategies. Like I was talking earlier about finding breathing techniques, ways to calm yourself down instead of turning to food, doing some other distracting activity, such as going for a walk. We don't all have time to take bubble baths, but doing something different to sort of change your environment. But if someone is binge eating and they're very concerned about it, they can certainly, contact my office. We work with that a lot. And it may be someone who could benefit from some mental health counseling. And I honestly think that a lot of us can use help in that area right now in the world.
Right.
If I answer that.
Actually, what people have to do is they really have to distract themselves. So if they're binge eating and they're near the kitchen, maybe they should just take a walk. So even if they're tempted to eat, they can, or they could watch TV in another room, not near food.
Absolutely. Yes. The idea is to take a pause, stop yourself in that moment, just see if you can take a pause. Like I have to put up a stop sign to yourself, say, okay, I'm not really hungry. I'm going to stop now, and then make a decision. Do I distract myself? Do I go take a walk? Do I call a friend? Do I go get my partner? Do I do a deep breathing meditation? Something other than food in that moment if you're not hungry. I mean, often it's easier said than done, but with some practice and patience, it can definitely be helpful. Absolutely.
Right. When I was looking at your website, one of the things that I found interesting, you have the sports nutrition guidances. Can you explain that?
Absolutely. So we have on my staff a dietitian, Kelly Melnick, who is herself an athlete, and she offers sports nutrition guidance because being an athlete does require a different training diet, requires different nutrients, different timing of meals and snacks, and so we're always happy to help with that. I know you'd asked earlier about physical activity, and while we're in quarantine, certainly many of us are not doing our usual physical activity. And I always encourage people to do what they're able to do within their own means. For me right now, I'm not going to the gym. I'm enjoying walking, being physically distanced. I want to say that's so important. May I just say, I'm noticing that in some of the parks, people are not being 6 feet apart, and I'm getting very upset. I want to just say, wear your mask and stay 6 feet apart. But there are so many other ways of being physically active inside the home. There's so many wonderful online programs now. There's yoga. There's classes online. So, staying physically active is definitely a way of also to help with emotional eating, can help you feel better in your body, moving because it just feels good. So, we definitely have a sports nutritionist on staff. Yeah, I wanted to make point of that.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of bicycling and jogging on side streets, and it's sort of interesting because I'm noticing homes that I never noticed before. When you're jogging, and I'm doing it sort of at a nice, slower pace. I'm observing the landscaping, the architecture, and I'm actually learning a lot about Greenburgh that I never knew about just from observing things a little differently. Another question that I had was, what about being a vegetarian? Is that a recommended diet?
So let me just make a point about vegetarianism. It's absolutely a very healthy way of eating, and I don't think that there's necessarily a right way or a wrong way to eat. I think that I actually see often in my practice some teenagers deciding that they want to turn vegetarian or they want to be vegan. So it's a very healthy way of eating, but I think it's important to plan it a little bit to make sure that a person's getting enough protein, that they're getting enough calories. And always, if I have a new teenager that I'm working with, I want to make this point to all the moms out there. If your child all of a sudden decides that they want to become a vegan or they really want to make a drastic dietary change, I always want to investigate what the motivation is. Because if it's for ethical concerns and for health, absolutely. But if it's for means of losing weight, I always want to have my red flags up, because there's just often right now in the world, we know that sometimes a weight loss diet in a teenager can be the beginning of wanting to lose weight and can sometimes lead to an eating disorder. So I'm very careful about that. So in general, yes, it's a healthy diet. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you finding that anorexia has been a problem over the years for a lot of teens? And is it worse now with COVID?
Yes, what we're seeing, to be honest, is that anyone who's had some struggles in the past with anorexia or bulimia, or really connected to any other kind of eating disorder, because it's really not just anorexia. And by the way, we don't just see anorexia in people who are in small bodies. We see anorexia in any kind of a body. But yes, anyone who struggled is struggling more right now because of the additional stress in the world, like sort of the not knowing. When so much of life is unknown, some of these behaviors, eating disorder behaviors, have become stronger, and we see that. So we're actually very busy right now, I guess, which is a good thing, but not such a good thing. So I always try to help people prevent eating disorders in the first place.
Right. Well, we have to take one more break before the next break, and we'll be back in a few minutes. My guest is Erica Leon. ERICALEON.com is the website. We'll be back in just a few minutes. I'm Paul Feiner, Greenburgh Town Supervisor.
WVOX. Now back to the Greenburgh Report on 1460 WVOX. Once again, here's Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Hi, I'm Paul Feiner. I'm the Greenburgh Town Supervisor, and my guest today has been Erica Leon, and she has a nutrition business and provides many nutrition services, intuitive and mindful eating, nutrition therapy for eating disorders and disordered eating, teen and adolescent nutrition, sports, and nutrition issues, for adults. And Erica's email website is ERICALEON.com, and this is an important issue. And you mentioned in your website that you're non-judgmental when you're helping people who have problems. Is that, and that's probably important because I guess some people are embarrassed.
Oh, people are often very embarrassed to talk about their food, and also very embarrassed to talk about their weight and their weight loss struggles. And I think we need to be very empathic. I want to just talk about this for a moment, that what happens in our world with all the diets that people are on and how diets really just don't work. I don't know if people are aware of this, but 95 to 97% of all diets, weight loss, intentional weight loss diets, fail by 1 year, 2 years, 5 years max, people are not able to keep the weight off, and then they gain the weight back and then end up getting heavier in the end. And so people often have a lot of shame about all the failed diets they've been on. They feel like it's their fault. And I always say it is not your fault. It's the fault of the diet. I actually just came across something. I wanted to share this. That a study was done by the Missouri University Center for Body Image Research and Policy, talking about body image and eating behaviors during COVID-19. And 900 adults were surveyed. And 40% of women and 46% of men said that it will be worse. When I say it would be worse to gain 25 pounds during social distancing than to actually become infected with COVID-19. So people would rather get sick and die than potentially gain 25 pounds. So the reason I wanted to bring it up is I think that is a very big problem that exists in our world, that people are so afraid of gaining weight that this fear actually leads to disordered eating. And that's what we see in my practice all the time. And I am seeing a lot of it right now during COVID, because people might want to go on a diet, and that's all well and good, but I don't think they realize that 35% of normal dieters progress to pathological dieting, and a quarter of those will develop full-blown eating disorders. So I don't think people realize that going on a diet is not benign, that it actually can be a very big problem and lead to serious medical and health, medical and emotional problems. And that's something that we work with a lot in my office. And, right now, during this extraordinary stress that we're living under, people are trying to control their diets. They're trying to control their bodies, trying to control their weight. And now with Mother's Day coming this weekend, I wanted to send a message to all the moms out there that the way that you are and the way you feel about your body and how you talk about yourself, your children are listening, not just your daughters, but your sons, your family, they're listening. And how you talk about, how you relate to yourself and, trying to have some kindness and think about treating your body with respect, not just shrinking it, is a very good message to send your kids, that, we can be healthy at all different sizes, and that the most important thing is being balanced, getting movement, talking about our feelings, and it's not just about getting smaller. I have to just make that message for Mother's Day. we want all of our children to feel good in the bodies that they're in, no matter what. That's
right.
my Mother's Day message.
One of the other issues that comes up is as people get older, if you have like a cookie when you're 20, it will be different than a cookie when you're 60 or 70. If you go to a restaurant when you're older, you're going to gain weight much faster. Is that accurate?
Well, look, I'll just say this, that I am 61. I can't believe I'm saying that number. And my shape has changed significantly through the years. And I think that I want to just really normalize it. I want to say that bodies do change. But we know that bodies change through all different phases of life. I mean, for women in particular, our bodies change through adolescence. They change through pregnancy. They change through menopause. And all of that is normal. I think that if we focus instead on how we can be healthy no matter what our age, no matter what our size, that the focus is, instead of just trying to be on a diet and shrink our body, to think about health-promoting behaviors like how can you move your body in ways that feel good, in ways that are sustainable? How can you eat foods that are nourishing and not depriving? How can you, feel comfortable in your body no matter its size or shape? I'm not saying that gaining weight excessively is not a problem to look at, but I think that we have to stop thinking that everyone is supposed to be one size only. And that's really my message, that we do all come in different shapes and sizes. And, diet culture, which is the system of beliefs that everyone should be skinny, I think that gets us into a lot of trouble. And that's what I've seen in being a dietitian for so long, that the world of diet culture, believing that we should all have one size, does a lot of damage. And that study that I talked about, where I said that people would rather get sick with COVID than gain a few pounds, it kind of shows what we call weight stigma, the weight bias. People feeling that, if your body is not less than small, if it's large, if there's something wrong with it. I think that general attitude creates an environment that eating disorders thrive in. So I really feel like that's my message, and I want to be very clear that I say that again and again. Because eating disorders are really rampant right now. And I wanted to say, our bodies are ours, and it's our job to take care of them to the best of our ability. without trying to starve them.
Right. When people, I'm sorry. We have a question. When people,
hello?
Hello?
Hey,
Yes,
I just want to say it's Dave from New Show. Paul and guest, thank you so much for the show. What I would, just as a tip for somebody who wants to get, healthy nutrition, get a simple, like an organic cookbook, simplest thing, diet for a small planner. The book is like the Bible of diet. But just get something simple. Keep a diary. List the foods you're eating and write, the next day how you feel. Don't worry about losing weight. Just start eating, incorporate healthy food eating. And like Paul said, get outside, ride your bike, go walk. Because the more you're outside, when you're around Mother Nature, that will aid you. If you're inside in a gym and it's boring, you need to be around the birds, the flowers. That'll give you, exactly, we both agree. And that'll give you added strength from above, from below, if you know what I mean. And you will move forward quickly like you've never been. And like you said, don't worry about your weight. You will change slowly, and it'll stay with you, and your whole outlook will be positive. I don't want to say too much.
No, thank you for that. He's right.
That is great. If somebody hires a nutritionist, how often do you typically see the client?
Well, everyone is different. Everyone has different needs. So when someone's struggling with an eating disorder, we see them weekly. But when someone is really trying to learn how to make a little balanced, healthy diet, which Dave was talking about, usually once a month, every couple of weeks, it really, and again, depends on what someone's needs are. Dave, I wanted to say he came in because he wanted to really give a quick soundbite, and he's right that, eating healthfully, it can make your body feel good. Getting out in Mother Nature can make your body feel good. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood about eating disorders because that's what I see a lot in my practice. But for the average person, think about eating in a balanced way, trying to eat regular meals and snacks. And he's right. He talked about diet for a small planet, a vegetarian diet. But certainly the Mediterranean diet is a wonderful pattern of eating. You can sort of learn about that anywhere, Mediterranean diet. And incorporating lots of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, not going low carb. And definitely getting out in Mother Nature. I couldn't agree more. Hopefully it'll be nice weather out.
We ran out of time. I really appreciate your being on the show, and thank you for all you're doing to make us all healthier.
Thank you so much.
I'm Paul Feiner, and my guest has been Erica Leon, ERICALEON.com. She has a great website, and I think you'll find it very, very useful. I'm Paul Feiner, Greenburgh Town Supervisor.